join you at UNC. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I've been a fan of Global Entrepreneurship Week for a while, and when I heard about the opportunity to come and speak with you on this particular day and this particular exciting week, felt like a perfect match. My name is Bree, and I work at Indiegogo. Before Indiegogo, I was at the Draper Richards Kaplan Foundation, bridge span for that, and for school I went to the NYU Wagner School of Public Service, and before that for undergraduate at the University of Virginia. So I'm not a UNC alum, but I've definitely had amazing influence from UNC folks over the years. At the Draper Richards Kaplan Foundation, the Richards of our Draper Richards Kaplan, Robin Richards, is a UNC alum, and she spoke volumes of her time here, and really appreciated everything that she gained from this experience, and is thrilled to be supporting social entrepreneurship as well here now today. So it's an honor to come to her alma mater, as well as at Indiegogo. One of our co-founders, Danae Ringelman, is also a UNC Chapel Hill alum, and she's channeling herself here today, and I know she's wishing me the most fun experience. She says I absolutely must go get dinner on Franklin Street after this, and I'm sure you guys can help me figure out the best spot to go. But it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Let's jump in. So we'll just do a few slides and have a bit of a conversation today. What we're really hoping to do is share with you a little bit about what crowdfunding really is and how it aligns to use in social innovation, and how you or anyone can run a great crowdfunding campaign, because there's a lot of things that you can do to make your campaign be strong, a lot of lessons that we've learned at Indiegogo over the years that can help you to be empowered to run a great campaign. Okay. So this is Danae, the gal, one of the founders of Indiegogo, with Slava and Eric, the other two founders. And they founded Indiegogo back in 2008 to enable anybody to achieve their dreams. So their idea was that if you have something that you want to do in the world, you deserve an equal chance to try and do it. To that end, they founded Indiegogo as the world's global open platform for achieving your dreams. So anyone, anywhere, at any time can launch a campaign for anything. And we've held very strongly to this belief that being the open, democratic version of crowdfunding is important. We now have grown to have campaign owners and contributors in 196 countries and territories, with millions of people who visit the site every week and millions of dollars that flow through the site every week, with campaign owners in all sorts of topic areas, from a creative initiative, somebody starting their own film, or creating a new version of a book or a game, to entrepreneurial initiatives, starting a new for-profit, sharing your idea with the world and expanding your brand and awareness, to cause-related initiatives. Are you supporting a specific nonprofit? Are you raising funds for a friend who needs help? So really a huge variety in terms of types of campaigns, and across all of those, we've pulled up a handful of best practices that apply in all scenarios. Okay, so these are just a few examples of campaigns. If you're thinking to run a campaign on Indiegogo, we probably have an example of a campaign like that. This page is showing you, I believe that photo of the baby is the first in vitro crowdfunded baby ever. That was an exciting campaign. You see dancers, sports, arts, etc. But really, we actually encourage you to be very connected with us so that we can send you examples that we know. So feel free to be in touch at any time. You'll see my email at the end here. It's just bre@indiegogo.com, and I'm happy to give you particular examples. All right. So the thing about crowdfunding is that it's not really a new idea at all. And this is an example of the base of the Statue of Liberty, which was crowdfunded in 1884 by over 100,000 people contributing an average of 89 cents. I actually like to think through a similar example of barn raising. So back in the day when somebody new moved into town, you would have a whole party at their house where everybody from the town came and helped them to build their barn. And this was an example of crowdfunding, crowd support that was very local, very geographically centered. And I love the idea of thinking through how times have changed, and now we can make those kinds of affiliations and connections across connections that are beyond geography. So you saw Global Entrepreneurship Week is helping to bridge geographic connections and move forward ideas. Similarly, crowdfunding is helping to bridge geographic borders and bring people together who care about similar things in the world, even though they might be in places far across the world from each other. Now they can have online barn raisers that help to move forward their ideas. So to that end, go ahead and click it twice more, because this is showing that today crowdfunding is growing and having a real momentum, because there's the chance to connect socially on social networks online and economically in a way that has never happened before. So back in the day when Pulitzer put up his campaign to get the base of the Statue of Liberty, it was a one-way contribution of funds to help build the bottom of the Statue of Liberty. Today, you can have a conversation where together you're coming and moving forward as an ensemble to move something forward in the world, and it's more of a discussion and a shared enthusiasm than it ever has been before. And crowdfunding is the idea of rallying your community and rallying the world to move forward your ideas. So these are just some differentiators for Indiegogo. I'm often asked what makes Indiegogo so special. And it must be special because this is the first for-profit I've ever worked for, and I did not want to move to a for-profit unless I felt like it was 100% values aligned with what I wanted to do in the world, and Indiegogo has not disappointed. It's for sure an amazing place to work where people are totally values aligned with changing the world. What we believe is that there's a chance to democratize access to capital, and so we play that out in all of our decisions and policies. A couple of those are reflected here. One is our huge dedication to customer service. So we like to think of ourselves a bit like the Zappos of crowdfunding, where we have a 24/7 support at Indiegogo.com technical email where you can write and get thoughts from real people who are in our San Francisco office, to issue area experts in all areas like film, gaming, etc., who can help you with specific ideas and strategizing for your campaign, and folks who are campaign specialists who will actually review your campaign and give you feedback and help you to move it forward. So customer service is a big part of what we do, and another part of what we do is follow this egalitarian model. So we have what we call the go-go factor, which is a measure of social sharing. So sort of like a Google page rank that takes into account how much your link is being clicked and looked at. Our go-go factor measures how much social engagement is going on with your campaign. And then we are promoting your campaign based on your go-go factor. So the way that you get promotion on your Indiegogo page and on our site overall and in our social media networks and ultimately in our newsletter and homepage is all by virtue of your go-go factor. So you start to get momentum in the world, then Indiegogo can promote you more in our networks. So it's a real challenge to be that world's open crowdfunding platform, because we have to be able to support any kind of campaign and then use that algorithm to promote campaigns, but it's a challenge that's well worth taking, because it enables anybody with an idea, whether you're raising $1,000 or you're raising $2 million, to have a chance to be that featured campaign because you're getting the momentum in the social network. So that's what I try to highlight. These are some of our partners in the social entrepreneurship space. Just an amazing set of folks we've worked with and that we've learned from. Happy to share with you particular case studies from any of these afterward. So this is an example of a campaign. It's a particularly, I think, exciting campaign. It's for the Kite Patch. There was research at the University of California, Riverside, to figure out how to make humans invisible to mosquitoes. And this research was really interesting and effective at UC Riverside, so they partnered up with IE Crowd, an organization based in Riverside that helps to bring technology to consumers, to the people, in an impactful way. And what they did was help to find a way to take this technology and put it into a patch. And so you literally have a patch. It's about the size of a stamp that you can wear. And when you wear it, it makes you invisible to mosquitoes for 48 hours. Fantastic for anybody who doesn't want a mosquito bite. I happen to be very prone to mosquito bites, so I was very excited to see this come out. But life-changing to folks in Uganda, where when you get a mosquito bite, there's a chance it will have malaria and be carrying malaria and make you very ill. So this initiative was very, very successful, raised many times their goal. Your videos on the left, goal amount on the right, perks, the tokens of thanks that you got in exchange for contributing below that. And in this particular campaign, IE Crowd was able to raise enough to move forward their next studies actually in country in Uganda to bring this technology to places where it can be life-saving. This is an example of a partner page. A partner page is simply a place to aggregate campaigns in a community. It's nice because you can be associated with that particular entity. We have partner pages with a lot of universities now, so folks coming out of the university community, whether they're undergrads, graduates, alumni, professors, etc., can have a single place to aggregate their campaigns. So that's just a nice thing to know about and consider as you go forward. So now let's jump into the real meat here. So why would you bother to use crowdfunding in social innovation? And I've worked with a lot of social entrepreneurs, so I know that it's a challenging job to be a social entrepreneur, and there's a lot you're thinking about, and there's a lot you're doing. So if you're going to bother to run a campaign, you better be doing it for a good reason. So I think that you can be an entrepreneur and you can use crowdfunding really at any stage of your work, even if you're pre-idea, there's a chance you could use crowdfunding. Even if you have an initial product and you're thinking of how to take it to the next level, pre-seed, pre-venture, even if you're a Fortune 500, there are ways to use crowdfunding, but you have to be willing to put in the time and effort. So today we'll talk through some of the reasons why it might be worth your time and effort to run a campaign. So first is the funding side. Everybody knows about funding because it's in the word, crowdfunding, but that's really just one of the reasons to use it. We can highlight particularly the gauging demand and mitigating risk here because that's where entrepreneurs take a lot of value, and that they're actually able to say for the first time, rather than asking their friends, hey, would you contribute to this? Would you buy this product? To actually find out, do they buy the product? Will they put their dollars in social media location behind your campaign? So I'll walk you through some examples. So you can go to the next one. So this is a page that's sharing campaigns that are just launching for the first time. They're launching their companies. I would highlight here, these are all student campaigns actually. So the bottom one is a student who dropped out of HBS, or perhaps he would say he put on hold his HBS career to go do this initiative, which is disrupting the dentist space. It's a mobile dentist that actually goes, rather than making people go to the dentist comes to your office. And as part of this campaign, during the time of the campaign running, they were able to raise the funds they needed to get the first mobile dentist unit on the road. They also got some of their first clients, their corporate clients signed up, and they're getting ready to now launch the company in the Bay Area. So it's very exciting. The middle one is the Dungaroo, is actually a UNC alum who is working to change the face of sanitation worldwide. She's found a way that makes toilets much more sanitary, and she's bridging the gap between the developed world and the developing world by setting the market in the developed world and making this product available to RV and boat owners who can benefit from it right away, so that she can have enough capital to ultimately do in-country development of this product as well, so she can serve markets that have no access to clean sanitation right now. I would highly encourage you to check that out, especially if you're a UNC person, just to see her campaign, the Dungaroo, and share it in your social networks and give her that extra momentum that she could use to get her campaign on a roll. Top one, exciting campaign, also out of Harvard Business School. It's a gal and her friend who have been sourcing jewelry from Vietnam, and they are running their first campaign. They actually already have some initial seed funding, but are looking to raise capital to build their next jewelry line, and they have a campaign running right now where you can buy the jewelry. A portion of proceeds go to support education for orphans in Vietnam, where the jewelry is sourced from. All very exciting, quite different campaigns running, but all trying for the first time to gauge their market demand, figure out what's working, what price points are working, and inform their business so that they can continue to grow. Next one shares some campaigns that actually used this proof of demand concept to really take their companies to the next level. The Minuum campaign up there on the top left is from students at the University of Toronto who had created a software application that would collapse your keyboard from 3 lines down into 1. It's initially developed for folks who are blind so that they had a single line of letters that they could figure out how to type on as long as you knew the beginning and end. Awesome piece of software, and they realized there could be a larger application for it. So they created a campaign to see if people in the general population would want this software to help them have more space available on their tablet. And lo and behold, though they posted it at a $10,000 goal level, they had over 8,000 people who claimed this software as the first early adopters to get access to it. and ultimately raised over 8 times their goal. And they released their software to those earliest users, got feedback from those earliest users, refined their software, released it for the general public, and then had so much success with that refined version that now they're in talks with cell phone companies that manufacture hardware phones to incorporate their software into the phones when they're sold. Very exciting for them. They've now built out a team of at least 10 people out of Toronto. The bottom one here is an exciting campaign that was recently on Shark Tank. Don't know if any of you watched the show, but we bring a bunch of sharks or investors into a room, and they all get to hear a pitch from an entrepreneur and decide if they want to invest in it. Now, this campaign is for a product that you breathe into, and it tells you if you're suitable for driving, whether or not your blood alcohol level is appropriate for driving. Got a lot of momentum, passed its goal in Indiegogo, had a lot of contributors. When it went on to Shark Tank, this was the very first time that all 5 sharks wanted to go in on a deal at the same time. This was the first time they split the round among all of them. Very exciting. These examples are about expanding your market. So we've talked about launching, improving your market. Here we're talking about growing your market. You might already have an existing fan base, you might have an existing business. How do you expand it? Love the example on the top left. It's actually a YouTube celebrity named, her show is called Hello Hardo, and her YouTube show is called My Drunk Kitchen. So she literally drinks and cooks and has a ton of fun with it. She wanted to take this show on the road and didn't know where she wanted to take it. So in order to map out her tour route, she would ask people who contributed to identify their address, which is something you can do on Indiegogo, and then she would take your address as a vote for her tour going to your location. So she mapped out her whole tour route based on the geographies of her contributors. Similarly, in the bottom right, this gal, Maria Springer, was in Kenya doing a model that was engaging youth in economic work. They were selling goods that were good for the community in the slums of Kibera, and she had enabled these youth to have an economic development stream, and it was working very well in her first location. She described it as going beyond Band-Aids. These youth had a sustainable model for their economic health, and she wanted to open a second location, but it was going to cost her $25,000. She didn't necessarily have some clear product that she was going to be offering people in exchange for their contribution here. She didn't have a software download, but she knew she needed to raise the funds, and she was very creative about it, so she went big with this theme of going beyond Band-Aids. She put 25 Band-Aids on her face at the beginning of her campaign, and every time she raised $1,000, she would peel one off. So in the whole interim, she was walking around, having her regular business meetings, going shopping, going to the dinner places, etc., with Band-Aids on her face, and she got a lot of social media coverage for this very funny image, and she ultimately did raise more than the amount that she needed to open the second location. She's now has already opened it, and it's already starting to operate. These campaigns are more about movement building, so this is one of the most exciting use cases for crowdfunding, in my opinion, because you can use it to spread a message and spread awareness. The middle campaign here is actually one out of Chapel Hill. It was about bringing speakers to town, and the people who ran it raised over $11,000 for bringing speakers to the school here. The one in the top left, Campaign for Local Power, is all about raising funds to support a local power initiative in Colorado that was being grossly outspent by competitors who wanted to overrule legislation that was enabling the local power. Now, the opposition had a lot of money that they were spending on the advertising campaign. This group didn't have that much to spend, but they had a big, important message to share, so they created the campaign, in part to raise funds that they could use to spend on advertising and getting their word out, but also as a means of getting the word out in and of itself. So this campaign ended up raising over $100,000 on its $40,000 goal and got a lot of media coverage. So it was actually a way to share what was going on in Boulder, Colorado in a very effective and almost viral way. So this is an example of empowering your community. It's taking that idea of the partner page and enabling anybody to use crowdfunding in your community to move forward what they want to do. Kiva is a microfinance institution that enables their fellows to go help their work around the world. They don't pay their fellows, but they do provide their fellows with a place on Indiegogo to hold their campaigns so that they can raise funds to cover the cost for their participation in the fellowship. So we've had, I believe, over 45 campaigns from Kiva Fellows over the years that have raised over $80,000. Okay. since we're specifically talking about social innovation, it's interesting that in today's day and world, the space of meaning and money is colliding and mixing in interesting ways that it maybe has never done before. But it would be incorrect for us to have this conversation without talking about traditional nonprofits. A lot of the ones we've talked about so far have earned revenue streams, but crowdfunding can be helpful for traditional nonprofits that rely on traditional philanthropy as well. This is an example of Black Girls Code, totally awesome organization out of Oakland that in their first year of running an Indiegogo campaign raised over $20,000 to support the girls who are learning to code that they worked with in 7 cities. Great campaign, did well, and then in its second year of running a campaign, they had learned so much in their first year that they were able to amplify the impact that they were able to have with their philanthropic campaign and raised over $100,000 to support their work supporting girls in 10 cities. So fantastic momentum, and one of the things that they did do in this campaign was they actually had one of their traditional offline donors make their contribution via the campaign. So at one point their campaign was sort of languishing in the middle of their fundraising goal, and I shot a note over them to saying, hey, should we start to brainstorm and think through what we can do to help mobilize your campaign? And they said, no, Bree, we've got it covered. We have a $30K grant coming in tomorrow that's going to help us to amplify it and show how much the world cares. So lo and behold, they had this foundation come in, give their $30K grant, which then helped prove to the world the value here, and they ended up raising more than their goal. And then it's not limited just to folks who are doing the entrepreneurial initiatives that crowdfunding is valuable. These are examples of investors using crowdfunding. We've seen that to be a very effective tool for amplifying the impact of your investment. Both of these groups, the ROI Community and the Community Capital Fund out of Kansas, support their entrepreneurs in their portfolio by giving them either seed money for their campaigns or matching funds contributed to their campaigns, because they see crowdfunding as a way for them to say, look, we've selected these entrepreneurs to support with our time and our effort and our dollars, and we want you to know that, and we want you to be part of it too. So it's a way for them to bring in additional donors, additional sustainability for their portfolio. It's very effective to get additional donors in the door and to help build the brand awareness and sustainability of those organizations overall. So those are some reasons why you would use crowdfunding in social innovation. Now we're going to talk about how to use crowdfunding. So at this point, it might be helpful if all of you think through an idea in your head. Think through a cause you care about, think through some sort of charity you might want to start, a company you might want to start, a company you might want to move forward. Whatever it is, take a couple seconds and think of an idea, because as we go through the next few stages of how you crowdfund, it'll be helpful for you to have an idea in mind, and you can start to see the many opportunities available in crowdfunding. Okay, so everyone knows something you care about? So the pitch, first and foremost, the pitch. The pitch is thinking through what is it that you are crowdfunding for? How are you describing what you're doing? And you want to have a tangible project. So unlike models where you say, we're trying to raise unrestricted funds, just give us your money, we'll figure out what to do with it. The world today is at a point where contributors are more excited to contribute to something specific, where they feel like they are helping to move a specific initiative forward. So you can still raise funds that go to cover things like salaries or marketing or some of these other traditionally unsexy topics, but it's all about framing what they're going to help you to do. So ultimately, by having these people you hire and the way you market, is it going to enable you to launch your work in an additional location? Is it going to help you to test your work in your first location? Is it going to help you to launch a new product? What's it going to do? You want to be open and honest, tell people where the money is going, but be particularly clear about the outcome of those dollars and why people should be excited to support them. So then once you have your idea in mind of what you can do, the next thing to do is to create a video. So I recommend after today that you guys go watch this video. This example here is for the Scanadu, which is a medical tricorder, which apparently is a Star Trek term that I didn't know before this campaign, but it measures your different biometrics, how your blood pressure is, what oxygen levels in your blood, things like this. And it's an amazing product, it's an amazing idea. But before they get into the details of this product, the first thing that Walter does in this video is that he shares with us his personal story. And that personal story is that he was in the hospital for a year with his son, and he saw his son having all of these medical treatments and didn't know what they were doing. He didn't know how effective they were, he didn't know what they were measuring, he just felt like he didn't understand. And he's a smart guy, he's done a lot of amazing things in his life, and he realized there's an opportunity here for me to make medicine more accessible to the everyday person. So that's what he's done with the Scanadu, and that story of hearing how Walter was in the hospital with his son for a year is something I can relate to so clearly. If I had a family member or a friend who was in the hospital for a year, I would for sure want to know what was going on, and I would be frustrated to not understand the different machines, but having this idea of a Scanadu, something that can help me make that medicine more accessible, is so powerful, and it's that story that sticks in my head before anything else. So that's the number one thing about your pitch, is to make it personal. People give to people first and foremost before products or ideas. They care about you. You need to build up the trust. You have to show to the world that you are the right person to be doing this work, and that you care enough to put your full energy and effort behind it, and you know what you're doing and where you're going to go. You don't need to know all the answers, but you need to know what you're doing next. So after you make it personal, we do recommend having a video, because campaigns with videos raise 114% more than those without. Doesn't need to be high quality, doesn't need to be the next Pixar, anything along those lines, but it does need to be personal, it needs to be concise, absolute max of 3 minutes, preferably closer to 2.5 or 2. And you need to be, go ahead to the next slide, very clear about what you're doing. So be transparent with where the dollars are going and what they will help you to achieve, and very clear with why you're doing it. I actually love this feasibility study example. It's a student out of the Netherlands who had created an approach to handle the large island of trash floating in the Pacific Ocean, and he is very, very candid in his video. He says, I've come up with this great idea, I don't even know if it's going to work, but isn't it worth a try? So he's so transparent, and people in the world agree, yes, this is definitely worth a try. And so they ended up supporting him, raising more than his goal, getting to $89,000. When you do have your pitch, you'll have the chance to have your video as well as the content below your video in words. And we find that people tend to watch and rely most heavily on one or the other, the video or the words. So you pretty much have to repeat yourself in both places. But when you do have your pitch text and wording, still include visuals, include pictures, include videos that people can click on and understand and get a grasp of what you're doing. Okay, the green bar effect. This is very important. When you are launching your campaign, you want to think through the minimum amount of dollars that you need to move your project forward, and be clear about that, and probably that's the goal that you should set. Because campaigns need to raise about 30% of their goal amount in the first 48 hours after going live in order to get the momentum they need to really, really go viral. This is just what we found over time. It's not a rule, you don't have to in order to stay on Indiegogo or the open platform. You can raise however much whenever you want. But if you want to have an extremely successful campaign, this is what we found. So thinking through how much can you raise from your closest community in the first 48 hours after going live, from your friends who are here in the room, from people who you've met during your work and studies. How can you raise money from them? Through direct email, through your closest connections, through calling them up on the phone, and think through how much you can raise that way, and then that can help you decide how much you should set your goal at. If you have a goal that's much larger than that, if you want to raise much more than that amount makes you think you can, try cutting your campaign up into smaller increments. So have many smaller campaigns rather than going for the one big campaign. This is because if you look at this image, which one do you want to support? Right, you want to support the one on the right because it looks like it's going to be way more successful, even though they've both raised $20,000. So you need to take into account this mindset, this visual information that you will be receiving and the people contributing will be receiving. You can always raise more than your goal. You can set stretch goals that clarify how additional dollars will help you to do additional things. But hitting your goal early on is a huge value. Okay. So the perks. The perks are the tokens of thanks that you can offer in exchange for contributions. They're one of my favorite parts of the campaign because you can be so creative about your perks. Often I get people coming to me saying, but I don't have a product, how can I offer a perk? I'm not going to be able to do a crowdfunding campaign, but actually there's so much creativity that you can put into your perks to make them interesting, that it doesn't at all have to be for a product. I've seen some of my favorite perks are absolutely not products. So the reason that people contribute to campaigns, in addition to you and wanting to support you as a person, fall into one of these three categories. Either they care about the purpose of what you're doing and they want to move forward the purpose of your campaign, or they want to participate in it and they have pride in what you're doing, it's something they want to engage in, or they like the perk or token of things. So when you're creating your campaign, you want to think about audiences who will care for all of these reasons. And then you want to test those markets in your campaign, particularly via your perks, and see where you're getting momentum. The great thing about a campaign is that you can change it. It's an online experience that you can edit, and as you figure out which audiences are caring the most and supporting your campaign the most, then you can do additional things in your campaign to reach more people in those types of audiences. It's a great way to learn about who cares about what you're doing. So App Camp for Girls is a fantastic campaign that was launched by a woman who had been a programmer, and she was at a conference and she realized that from where she was sitting at her conference, she couldn't see another woman programmer. So she said, something's got to change, we've got to teach more women how to code. So she decided to launch App Camp for Girls starting in Portland in the summer of 2013. Now, she launched her campaign and so quickly raised $50,000 that as soon as she got that amount, she started to ask people, every time you contribute, comment on my campaign and tell me where you think we should expand next. So it helped to inform her information about where there's the most demand here. And she's actually already run her beta camp in Portland and is getting ready to expand to have multiple locations in the summer of 2014. But one of the things that she did in figuring out who her audiences were that care was offer very clever perks. So for her, the perks that she offered that struck me most closely were her wallpaper for your phone. So at the camp, she actually taught the girls who were there how to create a wallpaper for your phone, how to code it. And then she would send that wallpaper to the contributors so that they had a way to walk around and visually be connected to this project they had supported through their phone background. Similarly, she had a girl-powered playlist that had women artists who had songs that she was providing as a playlist. So really exciting, very closely connected, theme-aligned perks. You'll remember that I was telling you about the gal who put Band-Aids on her face. For her perks, she offered a box of Band-Aids. So she would just send you a box with clever Band-Aids in it. So there's all sorts of things you can do that are very creative. If you're thinking about the perk side of things, the actual objects, you'll probably want to offer a variety of price points for your perks, maybe an early bird price, probably a premium version of your product, maybe a group rate, different ways to test out the price point of your product or service. And then you also can have, on the participation side, different ways to engage people. Academic communities are some of the best places to have campaigns from because you have such a wealth of knowledge and assets. I've worked on, personally, 3 campaigns, and my sister has offered to teach a yoga class for all of them because she's a yoga instructor. It's always a popular perk. It's something that I can offer and that people who want to participate in the campaign but don't necessarily want the specific product or service I'm offering can join in. My favorite perk I've ever done was when I contributed to a health campaign that was for a prenatal health care fair in a tough area of San Francisco. And what they offered was that I got to actually go to the clinic and talk with one of the doctors and hear about the state of healthcare reform right now and how that was changing their clinic and what that meant for clinics around the country. Super interesting. It's an area I don't always get to know about, and I was a bio undergrad, so it's really fun for me to connect back to that. Huge opportunity to leverage different kinds of assets like that. For the purpose side, you might want things that are simply along the lines of thank yous. You could offer a virtual thank you, a virtual high five, which means that you don't have to give anything in return. Or you could offer a thank you letter from a beneficiary. You could have a wall, like the traditional philanthropy model, rather than naming a building after someone, though you could name a building after someone if you had a building to be named. But you could also have an online page where you had silver donors in 12-point font, gold donors in 20-point font, and platinum donors in 100-point font, or something along those lines. That actually does really well. So really thinking through different ways is to engage your community is super valuable, and I'd love to brainstorm with any of you about these topics. These are just a few examples. I've mentioned some of them. One of the other things to mention is the value of in-person perks. So if you have a chance to bring people to actually come and experience what you're doing, whether it's a launch party you invite people to, or a chance to tour your research lab, or whatever it may be, that can be great. I think it's pretty amazing. The Scanadu folks had 11 people claim the $4,500 perk to join them at a conference. When you do create these perks, definitely do think about fulfillment, because you will need to actually provide what you say you're going to provide. So think through the cost of providing those perks, think through the time it's going to take for you to provide them, and make sure that it's worth it for you. Okay, now this is the third and final section of the how to run a great campaign. And even though it's the third, it perhaps might be the most important. And this is all about the promotion. Because a lot of people think you put up a campaign and the dollars will come, but that's just not the way it works. We tend to find at the highest level you need to raise about a third of your campaign goal from your closest community, a third from secondary networks, friends of friends, people who have seen the campaign in social networks, and then the third, and anything above your goal comes from the more general stranger crowd. But you have to get those early dollars and early sharing in order to get to that crowd value. So you need to plan ahead very carefully, starting from even right now. You can start to build your social networks, to have connections to people who are influencers in the industry that you're interested in. Don't ask for money yet, just start with a conversation. Okay, you can go ahead. So here are a few steps to preparing your promotion. The soft launch is a really great idea. We recommend it in a lot of cases. The idea of a soft launch is that you go live, but you don't blast your broader social networks right away. In your soft launch period, you are only sharing your campaign with your closest network, perhaps even with just your campaign team. And what I mean by a campaign team are people you literally invite to show up at the bottom of your campaign who are going to be really folks who care about what you're doing. They're willing to put their social network profile on the line for your campaign. They don't need to be just employees. They don't need to be people who you're serving or advisors officially. They should represent a diversity of geographic, social, and professional networks so that you have a great set of people who can help you get momentum in a lot of different places and bring credibility to your campaign. Anywhere between 3 and 20 or so folks are great to have on your campaign team. So what you can do is have those folks help you get your earliest momentum. So I recently ran a campaign to support the University of Virginia and with my peers at the UVA Club of San Francisco. They did a great job. We had a campaign team of probably about 10 people. And for our soft launch, we went to a local San Francisco bar that had Wi-Fi, and we encouraged our closest friends to come. So we had a lovely turnout. We raised about a third of our goal that very night by walking around with tablets at the bar and asking people to contribute. Highly effective way to get your initial momentum. And then, only after you have that initial momentum, do you go live to the broader networks, and do you start to share with media who will want to pick up something they see as being successful. Now, if you do happen to have a very high-profile campaign that's extremely exciting, totally news-breaking, you might not want to do a soft launch because you might get leakage of your news to the media, and they might not want that, and you might not want that. So, for example, when we had the Ubuntu campaign, which was a software company looking to move into the phone hardware company space, I don't think they had any soft launch period, and if they did, it was super short because they wanted to release their campaign all at the same time and get the media buzz that would come from that. So they were a well-known company that was looking to get even more well-known and test a new market. So they ultimately were able to raise $12.6 million to become really the largest campaign in crowdfunding history, which is quite exciting. It was a very exciting campaign. They got a lot of media coverage from it. And for them, the soft launch wasn't an integral piece of their campaign promotion plan. I do like the idea of including your campaign in your email signatures. You can share that you're doing this campaign and have a link right there in your email. I've also seen some interesting tactics like having an away message, so when people write to you, then they automatically get an email that comes back saying, I'm sorry, I might be slow to respond. I'm very busy running my amazing campaign. You can check it out here. So things like that, very effective. But you have to keep working hard at it. It's another example of you need to really stay engaged. Okay. Next one. Yeah, so you can actually click another time. Yeah, perfect. So one opportunity you have to engage with your audience is through the Indiegogo updates. So there's a tab where you can click update and send a note out to your whole contributor group and anyone who has followed your campaign. These are people who have already said that they care and are likely to be your biggest advocates going forward. They often will contribute more than once, and you want to keep them updated. Treat your updates almost like a blog, where you're sharing with them milestones that you've reached or exciting media coverage that you've had, things like that. Very valuable for keeping them engaged and getting them to send on others to your campaign. You're actually able to monitor on the back end how many people each of your contributors or followers refers to your campaign and how much those people contribute to. We see a lot of campaign owners who do referral contests and actually give special perks to the people who refer the most others to the campaign. Another interesting thing you can do for your promotion is to cross-promote. So find another campaign on Indiegogo that's like-minded and also doing well, and then you can send out a campaign announcement about their campaign, and they can send one out about you. So for example, with the UVA campaign, at the same time that we were running that to support the restoration of the rotunda at UVA, there was a campaign running by UVA alumni who had created a glasses line where you could swap out the lenses and have many different frames. So you didn't have to buy many lenses, you just got to have more frame options. So we did a cross promotion where we sent out an announcement saying, hey, check out these amazing UVA alums, and they sent out an announcement saying, hey, check out this amazing campaign for our alma mater. Really nice way to get that cross-pollination. This campaign did a fantastic job with their promotion, so I highlight it for that purpose. Ubiome, another one I recommend watching the video for. And in this case, it was some students and alumni and professors from 3 different universities who were studying microbes in the human body. Now, they needed money to do their research, but they also needed samples. So what they did was set up their campaign in a citizen science model in which, depending on how much you contributed to the campaign, they would send you a sample collection kit. You would actually collect microbes from your own body and send them in for analysis to figure out what microbes you have in your body. Quite exciting, a lot of media coverage, really raised a lot of funds way beyond their 100K goal. And then finally, the Who Gives a Crap campaign is a fantastic campaign to look at as an example of awesome promotion. So I think what I'll do here is pause and we'll watch one more film so you can see a great campaign video and promotion all in one.
Hi, I'm Simon Griffiths, co-founder of Who Gives a Crap. We reckon every trip to the bathroom should be a feel-good experience. So we've spent the last 2 years developing the only toilet paper that delivers one every time. Who gives a crap? It's a breakthrough on so many levels. Let me take you through them. It's better for the environment, and we've cut the nasties, so it's better for your body. That feels good. But unlike other recycled toilet paper, we're all about comfort. So it has a beautiful fluffy texture and low PTR, or poke-through rate. That feels good. You can choose to buy it off the shelf or have it home delivered. Either way, it costs the same as other brands, but comes with 1,200% more puns. That feels good. But here's where we're really on a roll. 50% of our profits go to sanitation projects in the developing world. You see, while a trip to the bathroom can be the ultimate feel-good experience for some, for many, it's not, because 2.4 billion people don't have access to a proper toilet. The bad stuff ends up in waterways, causing diseases that fill half the hospital beds in the developing world. That doesn't feel very good. And that's why we're donating 50% of our profits to WaterAid. WaterAid help the world's poorest people access clean water, sanitation, and hygiene education. They're literally saving the world from the bottom up. It's as simple as that. We take something that everybody needs and use the proceeds to help people in need. And that feels really good. Heading up Who Gives a Crap, Jehan Ratnatunga in LA, Danny Alexander in New York, and myself down in Melbourne, Australia. We're engineers and product designers who in 2010, through a shared passion for humanitarian aid and toilet humour, developed a business model that grabbed a lot of headlines and won a bunch of awards for entrepreneurship. We're busting to press go on the first production run and create Who Gives a Crap's first edition. Our feel-good toilet paper needs a feel-good price. And for that, we have to order in bulk. But we need $50,000 to make that happen. Basically, we need toilet paper. And like anyone who's waiting for toilet paper, we need someone to help us out. We're asking for your support. We need $50,000 to fill our warehouse with the first bulk order of Who Gives a Crap. And I won't be leaving this toilet until we've raised enough for our first order. I'm sitting down for what I believe in, and I'm not getting up until I've got some toilet paper. $50,000 worth. Till then, you can jump on our website and see me sitting right here on our live feed. So please, bit of help.
So Simon sat on that toilet for over 24 hours, and it was the first time we had live streamed a video through the campaign, and he did raise $50,000. He ultimately raised over $60,000. Fantastic job. Also learned that he had a lot of momentum in the Australian market, so he's decided to focus his business development opportunities in that area for now. It's a great campaign all around. Now, before concluding, I would love to share with you a couple resources. So yeah, the next page shares with you the field guide link, which is a great document for learning tips for great campaigns. It's about 20 pages full of great resources. If you just Google Indiegogo field guide, it'll be the first thing that comes up. We've also just released this week, well-timed in alignment with Global Entrepreneurship Week and also with upcoming holiday giving season, our Cause Handbook, which is a handbook specifically for cause campaigns. So you can also find that, and one of the places that that will be linked at is on our Giving Tuesday initiative. So you've probably heard of having Thanksgiving and then Black Friday. Now there's also Cyber Monday. And just last year, we had for the first time Giving Tuesday, which is the idea of the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, doing something good with your social media presence. And Indiegogo is going really big for Giving Tuesday. We're really excited about it. What we're doing is offering all cause campaigns on that day, one additional dollar from Indiegogo for every $20 that the campaign raises. So we'll be supporting with that additional 5%, and we're also encouraging all of our campaigns that aren't in the cause space to take the 1% pledge and contribute 1% of the dollars they've raised in their campaign to cause campaigns on Indiegogo. So it's a really exciting day. I know it's rapidly approaching, but if any of you have cause campaigns you're interested in doing and want to get your feet wet in crowdfunding, it would be a fun opportunity to run a campaign, even if it's just for 24 hours, or if you want to run it longer through the season, that's fine too. If you're already going to make a charitable contribution with your philanthropic dollars, doing that through a campaign and offering those dollars as a match, perhaps, to inspire others to give, would be a way to amplify your impact this holiday season. So one exciting thing that we're up to. Next page, I think, just has contact info. You're always welcome to be in touch. I'm happy to share with you specific stories and campaigns and ideas for whatever it is that you care about most. And at that, I'll pause and answer some questions. But thank you so much for having me, and thanks to all who joined via live stream.
Great, let's see the first question.
My question is, how do you ensure that the campaign money is used for the campaign that they are collecting the money for, especially in developing world where there is a lot of scam and people collect the money but probably not put to the right use?
We have a whole team at Indiegogo that is focused on trust and fraud, and they have developed over time a set of red flags for campaigns that are likely fraudulent. We've learned a lot. And so they're constantly monitoring the site and delving in cases where there's likely to be fraudulent activity going on. I will say, however, that given the social media and social pressure that goes on in a campaign, there's a surprisingly small amount of fraud. So if any of us were to launch a campaign, then the first folks to come in and support it are likely to be our friends and family. And if you aren't able to get your friends and family to come in with that first 30% of dollars in social media sharing, you're never going to be able to get the momentum from the crowd. So there's a certain amount of self-policing that happens on the site because you need to get the proof from your closest community that you will use your money for a legitimate cause before strangers will come in. Yeah, what qualifies a cause campaign? So we take a broad definition of cause, anything that's moving forward the world in a positive way. With respect to our Giving Tuesday initiative, you can find more information online, but the idea is very open. So like Indiegogo's approach to most things, we believe that if you believe you're doing something that's a cause, then we'll probably agree. So we're very open about enabling you to join that partner page and become part of our Giving Tuesday initiative. For-profit, non-profit, hybrid, all models are fine.
Hi, thanks for speaking here. It's been really informative, and I enjoyed all the best practices. I wondered if you could share some of what you see as the most common mistakes with crowdfunding or the most egregious mistakes.
Sure. So a couple that come to mind are repurposing a video that you have for something you have created for something else. So you could have the most lovely video, high quality, that you created for some annual event. And you might think that you're in the perfect shape to use that for your crowdfunding campaign. But if it's general and not specific to the initiative you're doing in your campaign, it's not the right video to use. Are there pieces of it that you could use? Sure, there are probably snippets you could pull from here and there to show your impact and to show what you're doing. But you need to have somebody, preferably somebody who's highly involved in your work, maybe an executive director, maybe a founder, maybe somebody who's running a project, and have them behind the camera sharing exactly what they're raising funds for and why they're raising those funds. And only after you get that credibility and trust and understanding of why they're using crowdfunding can you move into your more general content. That's a huge one. Another one is having your video be too long. People don't pay attention more than 2.5 minutes, really, so that's very important. And then the third one I'd highlight is launching your campaign and thinking that that's where your work stops. So you really have to stay engaged, and much like what makes an amazing social entrepreneur, somebody who's clear on their vision but flexible on how they achieve it and constantly learning and iterating, failing fast, as they're saying these days, a great campaign owner does the same thing. You know what you're trying to do in the world, but you're not set in how you achieve doing it. You're happy to get momentum in surprising markets you might not have considered. You're happy to seize opportunity, and you're able to learn from times that it doesn't work out and iterate and pivot and move forward your work.
Hi, is there a way, if you have already started to raise funding in your community, before you start an Indiegogo campaign, is there a way to get that group to back you on Indiegogo? So as you move to those other thirds of communities, that they can see that you have backing already if you did something before you pursued stuff through Indiegogo?
Sure, so if you already have some momentum, that's fantastic. And what crowdfunding will help you do is to amplify both the number of people who support what you're doing and probably the scope and size of the existing support. So it's fantastic if your existing donors come in and support you in your campaign. Now, if you have already collected funds from those people, you are welcome to contribute funds yourself to the campaign, but we're not able to show in your goal amount dollars you've raised offline unless you do that. But I certainly encourage you, no matter what stage you are at with respect to raising funds from people, if people have contributed to you in the past, reaching out to them and having them be your biggest social media advocates is going to be hugely valuable. The go-go factor itself is not calculated based on dollars raised, but rather on amount of sharing. So those people who have already given money are going to care the most and be your biggest social media sharers. So yeah, I highly recommend getting them involved. You should probably invite some of them to be on your campaign team. And you might do some sort of in-person event where you have them come and share, why did you decide to contribute? What made you so excited about this work to move it forward? They're your biggest asset.
I see another question here.
I'm curious if your product is a film, and of course a film is pretty expensive to get the full amount. I was wondering if you think if for a film it's okay to stage the funding, so you maybe ask for funding for the editing first and then have other campaigns, or do you try to do it all at once? And my other question is, since the product is the film, what does that make the video promoting the film?
Great questions. So highly recommend breaking your campaign up into smaller campaigns. We see that a lot, particularly with films, for the very reason you mentioned. There are clear stages, and you can deliver different pieces of your product at each stage. So in the earliest days, you might even be raising funds just to write the script and giving people the chance to see early versions of the script or have input into the script or all the wonderful perks you can offer. Then you might move into filming and offering people perks like coming to see the filming or even having a walk-on role or choosing the university sweatshirt that one of the lead characters wears is all very fun things that you can offer. And then for when you finally distribute the film, you could have a third campaign that mobilizes the momentum of each of your first two, but then offers things like digital downloads of the film or soundtracks and things along those lines. So highly recommend that. We've definitely seen that. Second question was, what does that make your videos? This is a good question. It goes back a little bit to the video, repurposing other video. Don't just use your preview video as your video on your Indiegogo campaign, because it needs to show you, even if you're the filmmaker and you're not an actor, you need to say, hi, I'm a filmmaker and I'm making this film because, and share your story, then say, here's a couple clips from the film to give you a taste, but really it's not about showing that preview.
Thank you very much.
I was wondering if you have collected over the years best practice. I'm right here.
Oh, you're there. Sorry. Okay.
Any best practices around the number of tiers that you should include in your rewards system, outside of the sort of costing impact of actually delivering them, if there's any sort of best practices around the number and the levels of separation between the rewards?
So what we have found is that the most claimed perk on average is the $25 perk, and the perk that tends to generate the most revenue is the $100 perk. We've seen everything. Our lowest dollar perk you can post is $1, and the highest dollar contribution I've ever seen is $250,000. So huge range. I would say you want to have at least 3, and I think our max to have live at any given time is 20, which I think is probably too many, especially to launch with, because you want people to be able to scroll through them quite easily. You probably want to have an infographic built into your pitch text that shows what the different things are you get for each level of perks. So have it very clearly delineated. $5, image of what you get. $20, image of what you get. So you have that built into your pitch text. One other key tip about perks is that you don't want to share all of your perks at the beginning. So if you have an interesting perk, save that for partway through your campaign, because there's a lot of momentum at the beginning of campaigns, a lot of momentum at the end, but you need to find exciting ways to punctuate the middle of campaigns, and releasing a perk is a great way to do that. So save you some of your exciting perks.
Thank you.
I have a question. When you have a sort of social idea, a social good idea, do you have to already be a nonprofit set up to have an Indiegogo campaign, or how early in the process do you see campaigns?
You can do a campaign absolutely whenever you want. If you want to enable donors to have tax-deductible receipts issued to them, you do need to have a 501c3 status, and then you can integrate with our nonprofit payment processor, First Giving, who will automatically issue the tax-deductible receipts for you. So if that's something you want to offer, then you need that, but you could completely launch a campaign when you don't even have a specific idea, you just know an area you want to explore. You could launch it once you have created the, you have your articles of incorporation, but you don't have your 501c3 yet. Anywhere along the spectrum, you're welcome to run a campaign. If you have questions about how to count the dollars in terms of revenue, then we would just suggest that you consult with a lawyer to ask about that.
How crucial is it to list your perks in the video as well as in the text? And then what are some ideas you've seen fail because you think they should have included those in the video?
I don't think it's that crucial to list your perks in the video, and there's a little bit of risk to it because you might want to change your perks, and it's a little harder to change your video and much easier to change your perks. So my instinct is to, at the end of your video, allude to your perks and list some of the things available, but leave it pretty broad so that then you can change your perks as you go through, because that's the easiest thing to change. I can't think of a campaign I've seen fail because they haven't talked about perks in their text.
Hey, sorry.
I'm at a journalism school here, and we learn every day that this is the most rapidly, changing, one of the most rapidly changing places in business now, and it's an interesting, sort of business world because there's two sides of it. Do you see crowdfunding as a good source of innovation for the journalism industry, or do you think there's a better way to go about it?
Interesting. I don't know that I have a specific comment on journalism itself. I do think that it's an exciting way to raise topics that are otherwise not easy to notice. So one of the reasons I like crowdfunding so much is that it gives anybody the chance to have an extraordinary campaign. So you could be from an area that doesn't traditionally have journalism coverage, or from a community that hasn't received a lot of venture funding in your past. And those areas that are known for getting coverage, it's still great, you can still cover topics there, but this gives the chance to anybody to have something extraordinary that then we can help to amplify through our go-go factor and through awareness, and enable more stories to be shared. So to me, it feels like a great win for journalism, in that it helps to source exciting stories that then others can help to bring forward. I mean, some of the most impactful things that we find for campaigns is when a campaign's getting that initial momentum, and then they start to get more coverage from media outlets that helps bring their message that they're starting to share and amplify to an even broader audience.
Hi. So you gave some great advice on the amount of money to ask for. Is there also a similar formula for the amount of time to run a campaign for? Is there an ideal amount, or is there a time that is just too long, or obviously too short is if you run out before you get the money, but.
Right, and actually, I think the risk is more on the running one for too long. We find that on average, companies that hit their goals are 47 days long, but anywhere between 30 and 60 tends to be a best practice. Anything too long, and you lose the urgency, because you want people to come to your campaign, see what you're doing, and be incentivized to contribute the first time they see it, rather than saying, I'll come back to this, and then forgetting to ever come back. So there's definitely power in the urgency. It also gives you the chance to send out more emails than you probably would otherwise, because people know you're only going to be bugging them for a certain amount of time.
I have a question about the fiscal agent being a county or government. And this is an issue for me about maybe not going in, and secondly, offering perks. If it's an event that's going to benefit the community, it's a long-standing local event, and the county or the fiscal agent that is acting as the 501c3, as the non-profit, has certain reservations about the collection of money through something like an like an organization. So how does one deal with that kind of situation and the perks? Everybody I know has said that they are very, very involved with the perks and handing that back. We're doing one huge event, and the perk is the event. Why does everybody want a perk for an event that is in itself a reward for the community? Could you answer that, please?
Sure. So sounds like there are maybe two questions here. One about fiscal sponsorship. It's a great question. We work with quite a few fiscal sponsors. Our largest partner on Indiegogo is Fractured Atlas, which has facilitated, I believe, over $6 million to thousands of organizations through that fiscal sponsor. So that's been a fantastic relationship. And the way that we work with them is that dollars contributed to those campaigns go straight to Fractured Atlas, which then distributes them to their campaign owners. So they're still maintaining that fiscal sponsor role. And I'm happy to talk in more detail about that if you're interested. With respect to the event side, the campaign that I just ran for UVA was event-based. The idea was that folks on the West Coast don't have enough formal parties, so we wanted to have a taste of the East Coast on the West Coast. So it was a whole campaign that culminates in a white tie ball, which is actually happening on Friday, which is why I have to get back to San Francisco tomorrow in time for the ball. But the whole campaign, though it was oriented around this idea, certainly generated people who contributed in order to be able to come to the ball. That was our #1 claimed perk. We had different levels of tiers, so if you contributed early, you got the early bird prize. If you contributed enough to cover 2 tickets, you got the doubles ticket. If you contributed at a $500 level, which was higher than the ticket price, then we also gave you a bottle of wine. At the $1,000 level, we also sent a black card to go pick you up. So we had different tiers, which helped to get people at different price points they could reach. And we also had people contribute who couldn't come to the ball at all. So we had friends, we even had a few people from the UK contribute. And they're certainly not going to make it to San Francisco for the ball, but they're alumni of UVA, or they're folks who care about the people who are running the campaign, and they claimed different perks, which included things like postcards that had pictures of their rotunda on them, or the chance to have UVA cups or jewelry that we had contributed by local designers who offered it at a discount because they cared about UVA, all sorts of different things. And it really helped us to get donors who were excited about what we were doing, but couldn't be there in person.
Hi, I'm so glad to see so many successful campaigns, but I was wondering if you could comment on if people don't get that initial launch, do they revamp their campaigns, or do they just kind of disappear off Indiegogo?
So all campaigns remain on Indiegogo, so you can always look up any campaign and you'll be able to find it and see what worked or did not for it. It's definitely possible to revamp, and I have seen some amazing comebacks for campaigns when you see what has worked and what hasn't, and especially if you haven't had a chance to read the field guide or talk with an Indiegogo staff member, then just having a single conversation can help you drastically improve your campaign. So it's definitely worth trying multiple approaches. We have also had people who have come to us and said, my campaign was not successful, but I'm actually thankful for that because you helped me realize before I spent years of my life developing this idea that actually people didn't really want it. So there's feedback in even not having success. Maybe your price point is too high. Is there a way you can lower it by using different inputs for your product? Is it an area of the world that you need to market to different people in order to get their support for? So it's all about learning.
Hi, I wanted to ask you a question about the difference between Indiegogo and the other crowdfunding platforms. Can you describe some of the differences?
Sure, yeah. So the main is there more to the question? No, good? Okay. So the main difference is about that inherent value and approach. So the Indiegogo approach is the open democratic version of crowdfunding. And that model ends up dictating a lot of our policies. So, for example, on Indiegogo, you can have fixed funding or flexible funding, meaning that if you want to receive the dollars that you raise, even if you don't hit your goal, you can do that. We also have the ability to change your content more than most others. We facilitate dollars right at the point of contribution, so that all dollars reflected in your campaign are dollars you will actually receive without any leakage of dollars due to credit card data entry problems or things along those lines. We are so customer focused, and very, very much so on being the thought leaders in the space, so sharing what we've learned. And then perhaps most importantly, I don't know, all of these things are important, but we're very, very global. So since day one, we've had grassroots momentum in many countries, and even without proactive expansion, we're now in 196 countries and territories. We're just now doubling down our more proactive approach, and we have multiple currencies that can flow through the site and multiple languages that our site is in. So I am so excited to see where we go now that we're actually approaching this global expansion in an even more proactive way. But the main thing is our open approach, that anyone can post a campaign for anything, anywhere in the world. One thing I would highlight, just because we are an academic community, in addition to having fantastic perks, there are lots of opportunities to use crowdfunding in many different purposes. So we see everything from a Greek organization raising its philanthropic funds through crowdfunding that is able to raise much more than it ever did before. I was the philanthropy chair at a sorority at UVA, and I ran our soccer tournament, and boy was it insane amount of work for such a small amount of returns. And if we had had crowdfunding and being able to get people who not only were playing in the tournament, which was great, but also people who liked soccer, who were alums from my sorority, or who wanted to support their students or kids who were in the tournament, it would have been an amazing way to amplify the amount we raised. We similarly see people raising funds for sports teams. Last year, we had an amazing outpouring of campaigns from a lot of different universities raising funds for their Quidditch teams to go to the Quidditch World Cup, which I had not even known was a sport. It's amazing how much momentum we got. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you're very much a Harry Potter fan. So there's that depth of caring. Similarly, have had students support each other. At Emerson, there was a student who was needing surgery and didn't have the insurance coverage for that surgery, so his frat brothers, he wasn't even in the frat yet, he was just rushing, and they created a campaign to raise the funds for his surgery. It ended up raising many times the goal, and it helped to move forward advocacy for getting insurance for him and other students. So really amazing opportunities, and I actually think it's still a very much space to grow, especially for communities that are so social networked and care about each other as much as university campuses do. I'm very excited for the opportunities there, and would love to support folks as you think through that. But I've interrupted your question about 10 times, now someone come to you.
Oh, you're fine. Is there a way for, if you're using Indiegogo, to look at maybe like the analytics of other campaign, or see like what content works for that campaign and what doesn't for others? Just see like how much is something to share, clicked on, or that kind of stuff, so that like we can easily try to formulate a campaign that like will be kind of optimized based on other projects.
We make every campaign publicly available, so you can look through all campaigns. The data on the back end about specific contributors and where they're from is data just for the campaign owners. But you can always see how much the campaign has been shared in social networks, because their Twitter shares, Facebook posts, Google Plus links are all publicly available on the front of their page. So you can certainly look up campaigns under certain topics that you care about and see what has worked and what hasn't. But again, I do think the best way would be to be in touch with us, and we'll send you great examples, because every campaign has so much going on with it that knowing the backstory of them is going to be helpful for you.
I think we may not have time for another question unless there's one person here who really has an important question to ask, and if so, this is your time.
Maybe I'll just finish with one last comment, which is just that Indiegogo is so excited about the entrepreneurship happening on university communities. We do have a couple of roles open for interns this summer for university students. If you're interested in that, do ping us, especially in engineering and analytics, business analytics. So those are going to be really exciting internships. We also sometimes joke, but it's actually not even that much of a joke, that one of the best things we can do to support students is not go to career fairs just to recruit people to Indiegogo, but to encourage you to crowdfund your own career. And it's just been fantastic for me to see all of the amazing ideas coming out of university students. And if you have a passion, if you care about moving something forward, we're just at such an unprecedented time in history where you have the chance to move it forward. So I hope you feel empowered, and I truly believe you all have the chance to do it.
We have one last announcement before we kind of disperse and also network over there. And if you have any additional questions, Ray will also be out there to take any additional questions, even maybe just directly related to your startup or your social venture. But before I make the announcement, I would just like us to give a warm round of applause for Draper Richards. So the last announcement is, can you raise your hand if you are either a UNC student or a UNC faculty and you're launching a social venture and you're interested, clearly you're here, interested in launching a crowdfunding campaign? Raise them really high, okay. And please keep them high. And then among you, how many of you are looking for someone to maybe help you produce a video? Great. Okay, so I see a couple of you. So I'd like to actually take the opportunity to introduce you to a local resource here at UNC that actually many of us at the university have utilized, including the Cube, in case you've seen the Cube video, Carolina Challenge, and a few other partners on campus and in the Triangle. He's actually a UNC alum and has launched his own startup called Film Lab. So I'm just gonna give him the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about Film Lab, what they do, and if you're interested, make sure you recognize his face so that out there you can maybe potentially work with him. So I'd like to introduce Nick Thomas, who's a UNC alum, and he can say a few words about Film Lab.
Hey guys, thanks Matilda. So basically what Film Lab does is we create short 1 to 3 minute videos, usually marketing videos, and you can use this content to market your business, your startup. I'm really passionate about working with entrepreneurs, nonprofits and startups because they have a big idea that they want to scale out. We've done that for several organizations so far. So if you have any questions about video and how it's done, the process, definitely let me know. You can check out our work at filmlab.tv, and my name is Nick Thomas.
But he does really fantastic videos, so definitely check out the website. Great, well, I'm sure we're all hungry, so we can go ahead and move over there and get some food. Thank you.